Good day, good day. This is my 2001 Honda Prelude Generation 5, and I just fabricated a RSX short throw shift lever into the car. So I'm gonna give you some information about how to do this, and I hope this is helpful. So this car I just bought recently. I've done a couple videos on it, and one of the things I was not happy about was how long the throws were for the shifter. And I did some research, and probably around, it's 2019 right now, July, so probably around 2005 is when all the companies that made actual short shift levers is what I'm talking about, not like an adapter, which is really doesn't make much of a difference in this car from what I read, and they're not well designed. You can get them on eBay real cheap, but they're no good. So I was looking for an actual short shift lever that actually changed the geometry of the shifting, and about 2005 they pretty much got discontinued, all the companies that were making them. Of course, they quit making the Prelude in 2001, so they became unavailable, and so, you know, sad sauce. But I was just heard that the RSX shift geometry was very similar to the Preludes, and that it would possibly work. So I bought a Revo RSX short shifter. It was around $100. It came with the rod and the whole base, which the base, this is actually the Prelude base. But if you do a little bit of Frankensteining and get creative, it totally works. So I'm going to talk about my install. This isn't going to be a well-produced video, but I'm going to give you enough information that you'll be able to figure it out. And you can leave questions in the comments if you have any, and I'll help you out. But yeah, I'm really happy. I just installed this last night. I haven't obviously put the trim back on, but I'm really happy with the way it drives this morning. I took it for the first test drive, and I'll just show you. It's significantly shorter, especially gears 2 and 5. So no problems at all. I did about an 8 or 9 mile test drive, and it is significantly shorter. I'm very, very happy with how this has worked out. So I'd say probably like a 30% reduction in the throws, and the RSX shifter actually dropped it about maybe half an inch also in terms of height. It's a tiny bit more work, but it's really nothing to worry about in terms of effort going into shifting it. So all in all, I'm going to say this is an A+ mod for $100, and yeah, I think it's going to do great in the car. So I'll kind of go through what I did here, and so first of all, just you know, I won't go into this a lot, but removing the center piece here, I'll go over here and show you kind of what I did. This is, I mean, this is real easy, but I'll just show you since I want to be comprehensive. So this is the trim piece, and you've just got 1, 2, 3, 4, and that 5th one here at the top. I don't think I needed to remove that, but I did. So 4 or 5 Phillips head screws. You just remove all those, and then let me show you this too. If you're doing this, you can just pause the video here and take a look at this. This kind of shows you everything you need. There's the schematic, but it's kind of intuitive. You don't really need to look at that, but there it is just in case. But anyhow, so you pull those, you know, 5 on each side, or 4 if you don't do that higher one. I don't think I needed to, but I just did. And then there's a clip here that's the coin light. You just undo this, and then you just pull it back. Undo this, and then you just pull the whole thing back, and it just pulls off awkwardly off this. Of course, you gotta, by the way, you gotta get this off first, and to do that, you just grab the boot and just pull it down forcefully, and it just pops out of this clip here, and then you just unscrew the shift lever. So that's step 1, is you get that trim off. Step 2 is removing this. So this is the stock box, and let me show you the schematic on that too, if you want to pause. This helped me a little bit. Just pause it here. So here's the gear shift, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So, but this is actually again very simple. Kind of what I did on the car. VTEC dual overhead cam. So basically, just very quickly, step 1, you got to get some big pliers and just pull this thing this way, this clip. Just pull it forcefully, and I just kind of had to like wiggle it back and forth, up and down, and it pops out. No problem. And then this thing, there's a little plastic clip which broke on mine, but it's fine. It's not going anywhere. but you stick a screwdriver in there and you just pry it, and then you can turn this. Again, mine's broken. You can see the clip, that white part there, right there is where the clip was. It broke off. It keeps it from like turning, but even as it is now, it's not going to turn out unless it gets all the way here, which isn't going to happen because it's got a spring, so that's no problem. But anyhow, you push the clip over, a little screwdriver, turn this, pop this out. There's a cotter pin here. You pull the cotter pin and this pulls out, and then right here on the stock lever, let me grab my stock lever. This is a pretty unorganized video, but you'll get the idea. So on the stock lever, this is one of the differences. You have a thread here with a washer and a bolt, and so you take that off, you unbolt that, sorry, a nut, not a bolt. So you pull the nut off, pull the washer off. It's a 10 mil, and that's what's holding this shift linkage on right here. So you pull that out, and then you pull these are 12s, 4 12s, and you pull them off, disassemble, and then pop everything out, and you've got it out. And then let me show you the differences, the little bit of modification I had to make. Really, so basically what I did is I took this piece from the Revo, which was just a tiny bit different. This cable actually was a little higher, like just a few millimeters. Not enough to make a difference or bother me. It shifts perfectly. So I actually fabbed this in from the Revo, and the reason I did that is because the stock piece, this stock piece, has a little, I don't know what you'd call it, it's like a little plastic bearing, or I don't know what the part is called. But if you look right here, this white piece here, the stock shift lever here is meant to fit into that, and it makes it tight. But the Revo shifter will not, the ball is too big to fit into that. So my options were either remove this white piece or cram it and hope for the best, which I didn't want to do, or just swap out. This, by the way, is the Revo shift box that you get, which I didn't use, but I did take this piece from the Revo. So this is the stock piece, and the one I have in the car, I'll show you in a minute, the black piece is actually out of this. The black piece, like I said, it's a little bit taller here, but it's only a few millimeters. It works fine, but it doesn't have that piece, and it fits perfectly in there. So that is one difference, and I chose to go with the Revo piece for that. Now, because of that, what happens is this actually is just the tiniest bit loose. You can see down there. So this is what I'm talking about, this black piece. And it's just a little loose. It's fine, it's no big deal, but I'm probably gonna get an O-ring or something, take this back apart and stick an O-ring on that and just fit it. There's a groove there where it would fit fine, and that'll tighten this up. It's not a big deal, but just, you know, as little slop as possible. So that's one difference. And then I did have to, in order to get this to fit in, it's again just a couple excuse me, couple millimeters wider than the stock one, so it won't quite fit in there. So just like right down there in this area, and you'll see when you get it apart, I just took a I had to take, I'll show you again, I had to take a hacksaw, little tiny mini hacksaw, and I just cut off, so let's just pretend this is the Revo piece right here. I just had to cut off like a tiny little bit. Here it is right here. I just had to cut off this much, and I just had to shave it off, and doing that made it fit in there perfectly. It's totally tight, and so if you're gonna use that route instead of dealing with that white bushing that I was showing you, then and it fits in there fine. It's perfectly tight, and so that was one difference. And then what I was talking about here, so the Prelude shifter has threads and a nut that holds this cable on, but the Revo shifter does not. All it has is a spot for a cotter pin. Now, in order to make this work, this is the other place I had to modify. I took a Dremel, sorry, shaky camera, and what I did is I had to Dremel a notch there and there, so just a line, just a perfect line right in the center of this circle. And this just pops out, by the way, you just pop it out with your finger. And I had to just Dremel a little line, just a notch there and a notch there in the metal, so that this would fit. Otherwise, this would not fit, this hitch pin clip. So this is not going anywhere. Again, it's totally tight, but the Revo shifter does come with a spot for a cotter pin or a hitch pin. And there's no screw. I wish it did have a threaded and it would bolt on, or you know, have the nut that would secure it like the stock one, but I think this is going to be just fine. That's how it's designed, and Revo's a decent company, so I think this is going to be fine. It's nice and tight, but again, I did have to Dremel out just a couple notches there in the metal here, otherwise it's too tight and it won't fit. So Dremel out a couple notches, and then you can squeeze this hitch pin in, and it will hold just fine. Again, I just took about a 9-mile drive, and I was checking everything out very carefully, and everything is great. So anyhow, that's basically the modifications that needed to get done. Oh, let me tell you something else. This thing is a pain in the butt to get out, this piece right here. And I was looking online, Honda doesn't even sell this piece. You only can buy the entire assembly. The reason is because it is impossible to get out. I tried to go in from underneath. There's 4 tabs. There's 2 here and 2 here to pop out this little this plastic trim piece you can see on top of that black piece. But I could not get it out. So finally, I just ended up taking a real thin screwdriver, and I stuck it in there. You can see that notch. And then I just kind of pried up and pried up and pried up, and eventually I was able to get it out. It took a long time because I didn't want to break it. I did not break it. I did get it out. It did crack, but it didn't break. But even if it broke, once it fits in there, those 4 clips hold it, and it's nice and tight. It's not going anywhere. Make sure you put plenty of white lithium grease on all your shift linkage and your balls and everything here. The shift ball is what I'm talking about. And yeah, so that's pretty much the install. Yeah, you know, really the most difficult thing was just kind of figuring all this out, and then getting this thing out was a challenge. But it came out just fine. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess the only other thing I would say was that I'm going to drive it like this a few days just to keep an eye on it before I, you know, put all the trim back on, because it's not sketchy, but it's you know, definitely Frankenstein work here. So the only other thing I'm gonna do, like I said, once I pull this off, you know, after driving a little bit, I'm gonna get a washer to put on that, to what I was describing, to get rid of that slop right there, just like an O-ring or a washer, to just firm this up. And then the other thing I'm gonna do is I bought some washers to fit here. I'm gonna pull these rubber stock these base bushings out, and replace it with some solid metal washers to just firm up the shifting a little more. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll link the Revo piece down in the description, and let me show you the parts I bought too. I'll show you the cotter pin. I got an extra cotter pin just in case that one broke, and the hitch pin clip I bought, and then the washers. This all came from Lowe's, so here's some cotter pins. Got that one. And then this is the hitch pin clip. They come in sets of 2. So, I mean, these are just not much at all, like $1. I think less than $1. And then this is the washers. I haven't done this yet, but I ended up getting some 5/16, and that should fit fine. I measured it to one of the 12mm bolts and compared it. It should be exactly the same. So I'll do all that later. But anyhow, I think I pretty much covered everything. I will do a follow-up video once I get the trim back on and get more driving on it, just to verify that you know, that everything's holding up, you know, after a few 100 miles of driving. But yeah, that's it. I'm really happy. Again, the shift is a lot less, the throw, and I'm super happy with it. So anyhow, hope this helped, and leave me some questions if you have them, or feedback. And there it is, 2001 Prelude.